Pascal, he is connected with the Amazon Sustainable Landscape that he's going to mention. But one thing that I want to say about Pascal is how he supports when he sees collaboration happening, and he's a really strong supporter of that. So Pascal leads the GEF's sustainable forest management work, steering the world's largest program to conserve critical primary forests, including the Amazon. He has more than 2 decades of experience across forest, biodiversity, agriculture, and climate with public sector and international organization leadership. And he brings a pragmatic multilateral approach from roles in government, diplomacy, and institutions to deliver large-scale forest conservation outcome. You're very welcome, Pascal.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm very happy to be here and honored also to have been invited for this important conference. Maybe to complete the previous presentation, I would say that I was born as forest engineer, and I will probably die more on the conservationist side because I loved what I discovered in terms of conservation and biodiversity and forest. So it's not so easy to speak after the previous speakers, but what is very interesting is that there are some points that I would like to highlight which are very related to what has been said before, and you will be able to connect with my presentation. So just a rapid presentation of what is the GEF, because maybe all of you don't know what is the GEF. So GEF is a financial mechanism of the multilateral environmental agreement, and specifically what is related to forests, it is what we call the Rio Conventions on biodiversity, climate change, and desertification. It's a very broad partnership made of 186 countries. In each country, we have a specific focal point. Usually, the focal point belongs to the Ministry of Environment, sometimes foreign affairs, or eventually also economy. And what is even very important also to consider is that we have 18 implementing agencies. We are only 100 people, all based in Washington. I would love to have this experience that you shared today, that I heard, because we don't have time to go on the field. We have so many. We are responsible to deal with so many resources in terms of financial resources. We cannot implement the project ourselves. So we rely on these agencies, like kind of accredited agencies, to elaborate and implement the project on the ground, of course, with the local stakeholders and the countries. It was the GEF was created in 1991, so it's a quite long time now. And it mobilized so far around $26 billion in grants and $149 billion in co-financing. It's very important, this co-financing, because one of the objectives of the GEF is to try to increase the resource mobilization. So we have kind of rule, which is not mandatory, but to try to have for every dollar from grant dollar from the GEF, we expect to have around $7 of co-financing. We are now finishing the GEF 8 cycle. It's the largest one that we had, with $5.3 billion in grant. And I would like to sort of highlight the fact that it is a country-driven process. The resources of the GEF are not GEF money. It's money of the beneficiary countries, no? And so they do what they want to do. Of course, it has to be aligned with our programming strategies, which is updated every 4 years. Okay, just rapidly, the evolution of the resource the GEF had since its inception. So it has been growing until GEF 8. And GEF 8, we have 29 donor countries. Some few countries are recipients and donor countries, like Mexico, for instance, Brazil also. So it has been growing over the time, but maybe GEF 9 that will begin in next July may not be so high because of the current difficult context of the donor countries. There are some what we call focal areas. It corresponds to the multilateral agreements, and the most important ones are biodiversity, climate change, and land degradation. Yeah, the forest, which is very interesting in forest for us, is the forest is cross-cutting in terms of all these focal areas. So when you try to obtain biodiversity objectives, you also obtain carbon objectives, and also you can work on the restoration, and it corresponds to the land degradation focal area. So we will find many integrated projects in the GEF portfolio when it comes to forest-related projects. So forest in danger, fatality. Just wanted to. There's some a few elements that you would like you to think about. No, this is a question of the question of scale and urgency. The GEF prioritized primary forest because this is a low-hanging fruit. About 25% of the forests in the world are primary forests. It's 1 billion hectares, more or less. And this is a very similar graph that we saw with Anne previously, but this one is at global level. And it's true that we have this trends regarding the forest fires, which is very worrisome today. So the problem is about increasing population, so increasing pressure on nature. For me, there's one data that is quite important also to have in mind is, according to what we planned for the demography until 2050, we would need to increase the food production by 50 or 70%. Where do we find the land? Can we improve the yields of the production at this scale? I don't know. It seems to be very difficult. No? I have read something like 600 and something like that million hectares of field that we would need more to feed the world in 2050. So frankly, that's why I wanted to mention this question of scale. No, so we have to continue deforestation and forest degradation. We heard already this morning that we have multiple drivers: agriculture, timber infrastructure, mining, wood energy. It depends on the regions in the world, but we have these strong drivers. The basic of that is that the forest is undervaluated. It's more a dead tree has more value than a standing tree. So that's why we see all this deforestation and, of course, illegal activities. There is something that you may have heard that, yes, the situation is maybe a bit better now than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago in terms of deforestation. This is what we read from FAO, the Forest Resources Assessment that FAO does every 5 years. Yes, but they are contabilizing also the reforestation. So if you cut a forest to plant wood, to plant another one to produce paper, it's not the same thing. So yes, globally the net deforestation is improving somehow, but globally the deforestation of natural forest is still very high. And according to the Forest Resources Assessment of FAO, this published a couple of months ago, it is still around 11 million hectares per year. So it's huge. So this is also a question of scale and money. On the left, you see the path that we should follow if we want to reach the objective, the commitment of zero deforestation by 2030. No? We are very far from this. We are not on track at all. And in terms of finance, about there is $675 billion per year that is invested in activities that potentially destroy nature, while the green finance for the forest conservation is about 2.2 billion per year. So it's 1%. And the GEF is only about 10% of this 1%. So this is a question of scale. We are very, very far from what we need really to conserve the forest. And on the last graph is a recent study from UNEP in 2025 about the state of finance for forest. And we see the gap. No? While there is, they contabilized $84 billion per year, 90% from the public sector. In 2023, we should reach $300 billion according to this study in 2030. So we are very far from what we need. So this is a question: global forest goals for 2030 are they attainable? I remember that the New York Declaration on Forests in 2014 was saying that we will stop deforestation in 2020. we arrive at 2020, we say, oh, okay, we are not there, so we will set the same for 2030. So let's see what will happen in 2030. Anyway, no, I don't want to demoralize you, because just wanted to provoke some questions and reflections. No, this is the objective of this. So the forest for the GEF is very important, as I said, because it is an easy way to meet Rio conventions for the countries, because it corresponds to different focal areas of the GEF. No, and so it's a very powerful means for the Rio conventions. Until GEF 7, so it was nearly $1 billion of forest, but we revised the number for GEF 8, and we are now around $1.9 billion of GEF grants, because we had more money in GEF 8, and also we had more projects on forest. So what is also important to consider, and this is related also to what we heard this morning, we have been moving more and more to integrated and systematic approaches. No, because the GEF began to, okay, we respond to the need for the conventions. So you want a project in biodiversity, we will offer you a project in biodiversity. You want in climate change, okay, climate change. Finally, we realized that it was all this integrated, and not only about the environmental objectives, also about all the stakeholders involved, about all the different initiatives that apply that occur in a certain territory. There are much potential integration that we can promote between all this work. So that's why, because the drivers are coming from outside the forest, and there are multiple, because we have many different stakeholders and sectors. This is the reason why we have been moving towards more and more integrated approaches. Also the question of the biomes. Now we have this big program on forest, which is a global program of forest. Amazon is one of this, the region of this big program. It's kind of independent program, but it's part of, it's under the same umbrella of our integrated program in GEF 8. GEF 8 has 11 integrated programs, and the biggest one is the one on forest. And the biggest one, the biggest region in this program is the Amazon. So that's why you can understand how important is the Amazon for the GEF. So we have been moving towards, since GEF 6, towards these integrated approaches more and more. And we have also another program on global wildlife program. And for the forest program, in GEF 6, we only had Amazon. In GEF 7, we had Amazon and Congo Basin. And in GEF 8, we added the Guinean forest, West Africa. We added the Mesoamerican forest, and we added also a biome of Southeast Asia and Pacific. And this is interesting because we are speaking about knowledge exchange, trying to see how others somewhere else are doing. And this is what we are doing now with this last version of the program, with these 5 big biomes of primary forest in the world. We are now trying to build what we call the interoperability, the links between all these regional programs. No? And the team of the Amazon Sustainable Landscape Program, the very first one, is connected and more with the other regions in the world. So we celebrated last year the ASL program, because it began in GEF 6, and it is the oldest one that we have on forest, the oldest integrated program on forest. So this is a very interesting program now, because we are able to see the results after 10 years. If we have only one cycle of the GEF, 4 or 5 years of project duration, it's too short to see results, and we need continuity if we want these results to be sustainable. So this is a very good example of how we can obtain results and sustainable results. This program is, it's interesting because it's more or less related to what Avesita was mentioning on the different goals. Of course, we need to protect what we can protect. We need also to promote development And prosperity, Tuntiak was very interesting what he was saying about prosperity. I think there is no conservation without prosperity. So we need to work at the landscape level and consider the prosperity of people dealing with these landscapes. No? And there is the policy side, which is very, very important. And the last one in the middle is a coordination between the different projects, because one program is made of national projects. And we have another project, which is the regional coordination project, which enables the connection between all the different countries. And now in GEF 8, the ASL program has all the 8 sovereign countries of the Amazon. And that's why this coordination project is so important to connect between these different countries, because they have the same objective. They have different ways, of course, they're different realities, but they have this. When it comes to capacity building for rangers, for instance, you need to put all these national projects together, and it's true for many other aspects. Sustainable finance. We have begun in GEF 6 with very interesting. Even GEF 5 before, the interesting initiative to build, to design a sustainable finance mechanism for the protected areas. And the 3 pioneer countries was Brazil, Peru, and Colombia. And in these 3 countries, the GEF contributed with others also, More Foundation and others, contribute to design this sustainable finance mechanism. And today it is still existing despite the change of the governments. And these are models for the world. So this is why the coordination is important, to show to others what can be done. This is the area of intervention of the ASL, so it's very, very big. It's 24% of the Amazon, more or less. So I had an arrow between this 24% and the $320 million of GEF investments in the beginning, because it's interesting. The $320 million of GEF investments in the beginning represent more or less 8% of the donor community that support the conservation of the Amazon. And with this 8%, we cover 24% of the region. So this is to show you that this broad approach at landscape level, an integrated approach, is quite efficient in terms of covering. Of course, it's not the same. This covering represents different realities. It's not all protected areas, but this is where the GEF is intervening through this program. And because of this 10 years experience, we have concrete results. One I would like to highlight is the 7.4 million hectares of new or expanded protected areas. The plan 10 years ago was to have 4.3 million hectares. We got more results than we expected, actually, for this specific aspect. And also we have improved management on 78 million hectares of protected areas. So, I mean, we have already quite a lot of results. The three sustainable finance mechanisms supported, which is also important. So now I wanted maybe to remember the question of scale, that we are far from what we need to be today. The question of the result on the ground, if we have a continuity over time of action, that is what we saw in the Amazon after 10 years. And it is quite unique to have this experience on the same kind of push for the same objectives over a long period, and not a 5-year project. And also this aspect that I wanted to highlight, because I mentioned the problem of the financing gap at the beginning. The first, maybe the most powerful way to narrow the nature financing gap is a policy coherence. Without policy coherence, it's like a bucket with holes that you keep putting money inside or water inside, and you lose the money, you lose the water, and as long as you don't plug the holes, you will keep putting more money without more results. Okay, so primary forest for us is very important, because this is where you have most carbon and biodiversity. The question of systemic and integrated transformation, which is critical as a GEF today. And well, as I said, the policy coherence is maybe the one most important thing and most difficult thing to fight or to improve. And GEF 9 is around the corner. We will begin. We are finishing the negotiation for GEF 9, which will begin the 1st of July 2026. And in this program, we will still have a strong forest program. And as we have our plan today, it's even a bigger, as compared to the other program of the GEF. In GEF 9, the forest will be by far the first, the strongest program of the GEF. Thank you for your attention.